Hello everyone, and welcome back to another Strategoi video. We're back with another table talk where Ryan and I pretend like we're sitting on the same table and we're talking. and This time around we're talking about the aftermath of AoS Worlds. And I should probably preface this by saying that we're doing only our personal aftermath. So my experience from visiting and Ryan's experience from actually attending the tournament itself. Ryan, I'm looking forward to doing this video with you. We originally planned to do this with Nick, but he's elsewhere occupied. Is that how you say it?
Sure, that works.
But we'll manage with the two of us, right?
Yeah, I mean we'll find another way to work Nick in.
Yeah.
Another thing is like how, and we'll get to this, but how special I really found it that you were able to drop by. And there was a part of me, not that I didn't want Nick to be involved, but this also works because I really wanted a decompress or a debriefing with just you as well. So we never truly got that.
Yeah, we planned on doing that, but then things ended up going a different route, right?
Right. So this is kind of nice in its own sense. And I spent a good chunk of the time not necessarily drinking, but being social and really trying to connect with everyone there.
Yeah.
And this is the perfect atmosphere. Like, if we have some other people that were involved on certain teams and whatever on the channel, then it'll be less about the social atmosphere and more about the technical tournament stuff itself. So this is a great place to cover it, and in a more casual setting such as a table talk.
Yeah, now that we're talking about different people that were involved, we could have actually asked Michael to join us because he was a referee at Worlds and he joined us for dinner that night. So could have been fun as well. But
yeah,
so many things.
I still want to do that though.
Yeah, we can still do all these videos.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, so the timeline for this video. First of all, we're going to start off with a touching base segment where we talk about what we are working on, how we're feeling. Then we're moving on to the Ask Us Anything segment. This time around, I also stuck to only 3 questions because I really want to talk about the experience of AoS Worlds this year, and then we'll finish off with some closing thoughts. But first of all, Ryan, I always start with asking you what's up, what are you working on, things that you're excited for, and anything else you care to share.
Yeah, life. I've got 3 months to figure out how to stay here legally. So looking for a job. That's a really high priority now that Worlds is gone, not gone, but done. Worlds was intense, as we'll talk about. For me, it was an 8-day, like back-to-back, non-stop kind of event. It took me like 3-4 days to kind of bounce back from. So it's mostly just been chilling out, and I've gotten 3 games in. Nick and I played a couple games recently, and I just played one with my KO list today. So that's kind of what I've been up to. And got I got a tournament coming up in a couple weeks, and just getting a couple videos out while we've got the time and trying.
Yeah, you've really been pumping out those videos. Like all the past videos, you guys that have come out, that's all been Ryan just on his own. So I applaud you for that. Like the time that you spend on the videos. Wow, I hope everyone appreciates it.
Well, I have a good time doing it. So even if it's just because I like to have a record of some of the stuff I find interesting online. It's still nice to have. But thank you. That's nice of you to say. What about you? What have you been up to?
I've slowly been suffering in this heat. God, like yesterday my mom came to visit, and she was telling me that it was going to be stormy this night, and that it would cool down. And I was like, Mom, please don't give me hope. Don't do this to me. So I immediately went on a website to check the weather, and I've read now that it's going to be like this for at least another week. And I feel like I stop functioning when it's over 30 degrees outside. So yeah, that's been bad. The good thing is
it over 30 there?
Yeah,
we haven't quite hit 30 yet.
Okay. Just 30 now, 30 or 31.
Yeah,
Celsius. For those just to be clear.
Right.
Yeah.
For those that don't know, we both live in North, I guess you could say Western Europe, not as north as possible and not as west as possible, but it's kind of, for those in the States, this is going to be more like Seattle weather in this area, especially in the Netherlands. And as people last year in the Seattle area might know, that kind of area often doesn't have AC, air conditioning, because it's not usually needed. And so we just kind of like buckle up when it comes to this time of year when it starts to get hot.
Yeah.
I live on the top floor of my building of like 6 stories. So it's just,
it must be
you need
terrible.
fans, you need everything, let all the windows open. Yeah. It's a little miserable, hard to sleep, but
it doesn't really matter for the show, I guess, but since we're talking about personal stuff anyway, like I've been really thinking about air conditioning, and I know that in America it's such a obvious thing to have in your house, but for me it feels like such a waste of energy, and it's so unecological. It really hurts my soul thinking about the amount of electricity I'm gonna waste by having the air conditioning on. But then, I mean, it's only June and it's already like super hot now, and I can only imagine what August is going to be like. So last year we had 3 terrible weeks of heat in Belgium, and I kept my shutters and my curtains closed for most of that time because it's the only way that I can combat the heat. But living in the darkness for 3 weeks in the middle of summer was such a terrible experience for me that I'm willing to kill the environment a little bit now.
Do you have air conditioning?
No.
Oh, okay. For point of reference, though, a lot of, I think, people that haven't thought too much about it, you look at the east-west lines. What is that, the latitude? I always forget which. New York, which is basically northeastern United States, is on the same line as Rome. So just to get a perspective, most of the United States is Rome or lower.
Yeah.
And Rome, and now ocean currents and all that stuff does mess it up, but they do use a crazy amount of AC, but there's a reason for it too. You know, like a good chunk of the United States is basically around North Africa.
Yeah.
So it's different, but
I mean, it makes sense having it now. I just feel a little bit bad about it because it's such a waste of energy. Anyway, let's not get into that. That's my ecological point of view, sure. And I can imagine a lot of people are like, "Dude, please, cut the crap." But yeah, it's really something that keeps me up at night, literally, apparently. Anyway, Warhammer projects. I'm painting my Seraphon. I have my very, very, very orange-looking toad. Actually, a funny, as in a horrible story about this toad. I'm not sure whether it was clear on the webcam because I can only see the PowerPoint.
Looks good.
Okay, I was actually feeling that bad about the orange that I painted that I didn't sleep for an entire night because I was thinking about how I was gonna fix it. And then I lay awake for about 5 hours, and then I figured, okay, I've got an hour till work. I'm just gonna get up early, not have breakfast, and just start painting so I can feel okay when I arrive at work. I've never ever in my life been so worried about a model, but it was really getting me down. I was talking myself down as well. I was like, oh damn, you suck. How can you be this bad at painting while you've been doing it for 16 years? But now I'm kind of happy with it. I'm finishing off my warriors. I love the color scheme that I've got for them. And I'm really looking forward to playing the army, even though it's kind of somewhat the same vibe as Lumineth, as in very elite and very caster heavy, the way I'm going to play them. Lumineth is not particularly aggressively cast in their spell slinging, except when you're playing Teclis, obviously, while Seraphon really is. So I really like the aspect of that. So that's what I'm looking forward to, especially.
You're making me worry a little bit with this not being able to sleep because of painting stuff. You gotta treat yourself right. Let it go, and sometimes in that situation you just gotta paint. Like if you can't sleep and you're not gonna be able to, just keep painting. You'll fall asleep when you get tired. You know?
Yeah. Anyway, yeah, you're right. It's also been a lesson in letting things go. So the next time that I'm painting a Slan orange, I'm never going to paint it orange again. That's one thing. But if I ever were to reach that point in my life again where I'm confident enough to paint orange once again, I think I'll treat it with a more calm attitude.
Okay.
But yeah, that's it. It's almost holidays for me. Only 3 more weeks to go. Then I'm going to disperse my dad's ashes in Italy, and then I'm back and I'm going to start making videos again. I'm really looking forward to it, actually, to give my voice a bit of a rest and then come back swinging. I can't let you do all the work.
How has your voice been? You haven't talked about it in a while. You feeling better?
Quite bad, actually. Yeah. The last couple of weeks have been really rough. Now as well, I've had a very talkative weekend, so this is straining for me. But we'll manage. Anyway, yeah, that's it. Anything else you care to share, or are we moving on to our questions?
Army wise, I'm still figuring out what I'm doing.
Oh yeah.
I'm definitely taking the Barak Zone list to a couple tournaments coming up, because I never got a chance to see how it really performs.
Yeah.
I know everyone knows the Thunderers list does well, but I want to take my list.
Yeah.
And then there's a part of me that really wants to squeeze in some cities before, but I'm starting to think that cities I'm not going to probably take it to a tournament. I think I'm just going to let it be home games.
Yeah.
And then lastly, probably Skaven. I want to get my Warp Lightning Cannon list painted up.
Okay.
And do something with it, because I've got it. It's ready to go. So.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, that can do some work. I apparently downplayed it in the Discord, but yeah, it's good.
I just wanted to rub it in a little bit.
Yeah.
That you had to stand across the table from it once. But
you
beat me.
You gave me a fair chance with taking melee tank. Well, I think it would have been a different game if that was also a shooting unit, to be fair.
That was a mistake on my part. I don't know. I got to go back and look at the math on it. But anyway, yeah.
Okay.
All right.
So I stuck to the 3 questions. I tried to keep all the questions a little bit tied to my experience at Worlds, or your experience at Worlds. So the first one has been sitting in my Word document for a while now. But since there was so much Slanesh at Worlds, let's talk about this question from Azaziel. How do you feel about the new Slanesh? Is it MPE? He kind of phrased the question a little bit differently. He phrased it as, how do you guys feel about the NPE elements in Slanesh? But I figured I'd leave the option open of us not thinking it was MPE. Have you played against the new Slanesh at Worlds?
I did. I got crushed in the last game.
Yeah.
It was more of a melee build. It had some shooting to support it, but it wasn't the Glutos build. It got straight across the table and really smacked the crap out of me. I ended up deleting most of his army by the end of turn 5, but it was too late. It was too late. I mean, I've played it with the KO, and I have no problem with my KO stuff against Slanesh. I don't know if I would call it MPE. The Temptation dice, I think what people are probably referring to is the Temptation dice and the million command abilities.
And the ton of shooting in competitive lists probably as well.
You're allowed to play shooting. I mean, obviously, I've played shooting lists in other armies, and I don't want that to be just flat out across the board called MPE.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah. But I mean, if you think about it, the List Barb Seekers are basically just a purple sun that you have to pay points to shoot at specific targets for. That's really what it is. Mm-hmm. And people have been using purple sun for all kinds of things. I've used it. But as far as the Temptation dice go, I think you just have to accept that you're playing a meta game. Like you're playing a game outside the game, and it's put you on a clock. You can choose 2 different clocks to play with. You can play with how quickly your especially support heroes die.
Yeah.
And you can play the how quickly they become almost impenetrable. Their army, and you have to play this little meta game now, and like that's what playing them is. But Khorne's got a meta game, like there are some other armies that are playing little things that as soon as you sign up to play that game or you get put against them, they like that's your reality for the next 3 hours. Okay, sure. And then the command points, I just played Nyx OBR twice. They get almost as many command points, and I would argue they're even more strong. They're stronger than what you've got going on in Slanesh. So, okay, yeah. So it depends. If Pretender stays on top of the charts for a long time, then maybe that gets annoying. But again, it's just what you would come to expect. Like it's like playing Tzeentch against Khorne. Like you're just gonna have a bad time if you don't have the right answer.
Yeah.
So
But don't you consider that aspect, like that phrase that you just used, when you're coming up against it, that's going to be your reality, you're going to have a bad time? Isn't that what you would call MPE? I know you don't like the term, and I don't like it either. So you can always tackle that aspect of the question as well.
To me, it's MPE if no one has solutions, or the solutions force the meta to do something very specific, like Gits.
Yeah.
This to me is the most MPE army. Maybe the new Thunder's build, but generally, it's very strong. Don't get me wrong. Slaanesh is super strong, but it only starts to feel like MPE to me. Like, I think Soulblight before the new book was MPE. I've never liked playing against Soulblight, but that's because the armies I always bring don't counter that horde stuff very well, and that's my fault.
Yeah,
that's just my personal reality. There are armies that beat Soulblight all the time, so it's not, to me, you can't call it MPE unless it's outside of your own personal experience. Like, it's a consensus. Anyway, maybe that's just niche definition. What do you think? Have you played it yet?
Well, I remember thinking about doing a Slaanesh review because the faction has always been very interesting to me. What I like about Slaanesh now is that all the new models are actually the ones that you want to bring. So before you never brought the Slick Blade Seekers, you never brought the Archers. You didn't really see Glutos. Maybe you saw Sigvald at best. And then you had the Seekers for a while. What's it called? The one with the demon, the greater demon.
The Keeper Secret?
Keeper of Secret, the Keeper, that's the one. It was a different Eeker or Eeper. So that you saw the Keeper of Secrets. But now I really like how new Slaanesh armies are looking. And when I walked aside the tables of Worlds where Slaanesh was playing, I was really in awe with the painting jobs on them. So that was always a thing that I really loved about Slaanesh.
Sure.
I do feel like it is not as fun to play against a very flexible, fast ranged army, even though I love playing that myself. Like, I don't enjoy getting shot off the table, so I think most people would have a worse experience against that than, let's say, getting smacked off the table by Iron Jaws, for example. I know that's something that I really dislike about KO now and before, was that there's really very little counterplay. If you don't bring any fast units yourself, or you don't bring any ranged units, you're gonna lose. But that's, as you mentioned, that's the reality, and I think Slaanesh is kind of okay. It's mostly quite okay, even outside a competitive atmosphere. But once you enter that tournament setting and you're basically telling everyone, okay, everything's fair game, then you're also bringing all these meta lists. So I don't necessarily feel like it's MPE. There will probably be some point adjustments. I imagine the Archers will go up in points, especially seeing the results from Worlds now. And Slaanesh is really good into Lumineth as well, I would say. So yeah, my opinion is a little bit colored by that, I guess. But I don't really mind it as much. Especially outside of the list that we've seen, where you're just eating tons of arrows. It's very 300 vibes, right? Like the arrows are blotting out the sun kind of vibe. I don't mind it most of the time. Let's keep it at that.
Okay. Yeah, I get it.
All right. Moving on to the next question. This was a very broad one from Hades. He kind of passed on some topics rather than questions, so I moved them into questions. So his first topic was, what about speed in AoS? So I rephrase it as, how important is speed in AoS? I think if you're talking to professional players or competitive players, they like to say this phrase that the game is won in the movement phase, right? Have you felt like with your slower build, where you really like castling, except for the teleport with Teclis, that you were fighting on the back foot a little bit by that, because of that?
100%. Yeah, 100%. That said, and we can talk about this more when you watched me play one game.
Yeah.
I typically like to play Lumineth out. Like I've had to start adjusting to playing them more as though they're a movement army. Um, Partially just to react to this. My favorite game of the whole tournament was my fifth game against a cities player who had a living city list that was deep striking and teleporting every turn, and it was my favorite game I've played in ages. I definitely want to cover that one, but against Freddie Leggett, this English player that was playing as a mercenary for North Ireland at Worlds, but I lost. But it was my favorite. I mean, I could have won if a couple other things were in place, but it was so fun, and it was because I got to play Lumineth as a screening army. Like I was screening out teleports. It was the most flexible I've ever played the army. And yeah, I mean, you can do it with a castle army. I was gonna say, and this kind of ties back into the last point, is you were talking about Iron Jaws being MPE, or maybe it's not. Melee armies, if you don't have screens, melee armies kicks the crap out of you.
Yeah.
And like if you don't like, a lot of people want to play with the toys they want to play with, and screens aren't those toys.
Yep.
You know what I mean? In the same way as like, well, if you want to be able to handle everything that's out there, you got to take this and this and this. And the problem with castle builds is the castle, the further you need to spread out, the harder it is to build a set of screens around it. So yeah, mobility is great, but it's only so good as you can keep your mobility viable. And so and also it's why Slaanesh is so good. Every single one of those units, the good ones, the seekers on the horses, whatever, the demon horses, they're called seekers, and then the archers, they all get to run and do the thing they want to do, either shoot or charge. Means they're basically in your face immediately. And forget getting objectives, just even delivery mechanisms. This is like what I was talking about with the KO Barak's own boat situation, the frigates. Mm-hmm. It's a slow army, kinda. Like they walk slow, but that delivery mechanism puts it right in your face, makes it as good as it possibly can be, and as long as you can deliver the goods, it's amazing. So speed, I unquestionably, it's why I have a nice Zephyros in my list for Worlds. I think speed and teleporting is one of the most important things possible.
Yeah, if you look at the armies that were at the teams event in Worlds, or just at the top performing armies, most of them are strong because they have a way to deliver their damage to you, either by range, either by movement, either by teleporting or spell casting, but you need to get your units to them in some way or in some shape or form. And if you're looking at the top armies right now, they all have a way to really get to you. And I think that's the point that I was trying to make when I said that getting shot off the table feels worse than getting smacked off the table. Because against the smacking, you can at least put in some screens and you might be safe for a turn. But against shooting, there's really nothing that you can do. Now with the current GHB, your heroes are at least safe, or your GCs are safe. But once that goes, then we're back to very, very strong sniping armies, which is good for Sentinels. Let me be clear about that. But yeah, I think that was a point I was trying to make. But yeah, speed in Age of Sigmar, super duper important. I've also noticed that from my own standpoint, I really, really hate playing slow armies. I've been trying a Metrica list for a while now, and even though I don't mind Stone Guard, I don't mind the Aura Bubble bookkeeping that I have to do for the Stone Guard buffs, it's just so slow.
Yeah.
Just that 2-inch difference. I mean, that's what she said. I mean, it's such a huge thing, right?
That's also what she said. But hold on. Yes, the movement. Yes, but Fire Slayers does well. Fire Slayers has been doing pretty well lately, and OBR gets faster, but it's still in theory not as fast as a lot of armies are, and I think it's going to be good.
Yeah.
Zombies still good. Here's the thing: is what you just said about shooting. Most GW is purposefully reducing the range of a lot of serious threat, high weight of dice shooting units, so that you can screen them.
Yeah.
So they can't move within 3 inches of a unit. So you put a screen like with let's say they shoot 12, like most of KO. Most of KO is at 12 now, not 18. So you just put 12 out from what you want. They have to park there and they have to kill that first. So you've got a screen that's not a melee screen, it's a shooting screen. So I still stand by the same thing. It's just you got to be willing to take that cheap screen in your list, which means you have to give up something else. And a lot of times I don't like doing that because I want to maximize the one cool thing I want to do.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
mm-hmm.
But that is what you have to do. That's what a Zinch Castle has to do to survive KO is get a line of blues that's our brims. That would be worth it too, maybe. It's not great, but it is how you have to beat it.
But I also play Horus Heresy, for example, and then you have a command. It's a stratagem, but let's call it a command, where you can return fire. So after you've been shot at, you get to shoot with the full unit before you actually remove casualties. You shoot back, and I'm not saying that's something that we should include in Age of Sigmar, but it does take away from the feel bad a little bit when you're going up against a very, very shooting army, and you only brought like one shooting unit, for example. I mean, look at my usual LRL lists. I tend to include no or sentinels or maximum 20 sentinels. They are very easy to take out these days. So once that's gone, there go all my ranged threats. That's maybe also me. I mean, my fault for doing bad list building. So there's definitely that.
What I'm saying, bad list building, it's also based off of what makes you happy.
Yeah.
Like not everyone has to play at tournaments. You can have MPE not playing at tournaments too.
Yeah.
If your only friend you play with regularly plays a list that's horrible for how you like to play. So sure.
Yeah. Personal. Okay. Let's move on to the last one. I'm super excited by the last question because this one is really a huge thing. So were you nervous that the almighty Jonas was watching you playing LRL at the World? And this is asked by totally not Jonas.
It's not. Oh, totally not Jonas. Do you actually call yourself Jonas?
No, it's just when I talk in my English voice. I can't say Jonas. Okay. I can't even say my actual name in English without like twisting it a little bit because it doesn't work for me like that. Like I can say Jonas, which is the way it should be pronounced in Dutch or in Flemish, but I find it very difficult to weave that into my English.
Okay. Yeah, it's kind of like Dutch people saying Utrecht, which you sometimes hear here.
Yeah.
I'm like, no, it's Utrecht. But anyway, whatever. Okay. So not Jonas asking this question. No, yes. It was probably my. Okay, my favorite game was definitely my game against Freddy Legend, which was the next day. Yeah. But my favorite experience, as like in a more meta sense, was getting to have you there, watching me play the army that you don't know me as playing.
Yeah.
And
I actually never saw you play before.
You've never seen me play before, and you got to watch, and I really was happy with how I was playing too, and like, it was cool. It was cool. I mean, I want to hear what you have to say. I don't know. It was really lovely. No, I wasn't nervous at all. It actually made me happy.
Okay, good. Honestly, if the roles were reversed, Ryan, I was playing, let's say, Cities, for example, I would have been so nervous.
Like, I mean, here's the thing: is I've been training for this too.
That's
so,
true.
like, like.
Yeah, you were probably better with that list than I ever was at that point.
I mean, it's the only Lumineth list I've played with, unless you want to call the before points version of the list, but not a whole lot changed. The spells, nothing changed. I haven't played it in second edition.
You're playing the same.
I've been playing the same thing over and over again. I know what Teclis does. I don't have to think about things too much. I mean, I think about things, but I don't have to think about things that I haven't already thought about before. It's more like what's appropriate for this moment. So, no, I felt comfortable doing it, and I felt like that was my biggest reward I got at the tournament. If I walked away with, spoiler alert, I went 1-5. But if I walked away with one award, it was that I got to play in a way that I'm proud of in front of you. Like, seriously, that was my favorite thing I got out of my Lumineth playing.
Yeah, it's a pity that not more people got to watch that game because movement-wise, that was a masterclass.
You're sweet. Thanks.
Yeah. That was really it was really good. I was so nervous for you that I could not possibly speak. I found it very hard to keep a conversation going with one of your friends that was also there.
Mathieu.
Yeah. Mathieu. He was such a nice guy, and I love talking to him. But I found it so difficult to to not lose focus when I was talking to him, because I was just so nervous about that game. But your opponent was also the sweetest guy. Like, wow, he was super nice.
While we're on the topic here, I want to pull. His name was Johnny. We were playing Team Ireland, and he was a FEC player, which was unfortunate for him because that's the army I played against Nick the most. But this is Johnny's shirt. Shout out to Johnny if he's watching this. Thanks for giving me the shirt. It was a lovely gesture. I wish I could have given him my shirt. Turns out I accidentally lost my shirt. Someone took it. I went back to the hotel, the Serbia shirt. I went back to the hotel today to see if it was in Lost and Found for the second time to check. I had a buddy check it out from the team when he was checking out of the hotel. I am so disappointed I lost that shirt, but I should have just given it to Johnny that day. So, oh well. But he was lovely. It was a great game.
Yeah, he was very kind. Like, I imagine, I remember when you were setting up and you place your warden in front, and he was like, you can still place it in the back because you don't necessarily need it, or something like that. I was like, wow, this is so kind.
But I had a reason for putting it.
Yeah, you were. I mean, yes. Just to be clear, Ryan had a plan all along, and it actually turned out to be a very useful plan. But apart from you putting it there quite intentionally, I still felt that was a very nice gesture, even though you didn't really need it.
Yeah, he was really sweet.
Yeah,
definitely my top. It was definitely my second favorite game of the tournament. Nothing against Johnny, but it was stressful. Like I don't think you were standing at the table right at the moment, but I had to pee so hard.
I saw you run past us when I was keeping the girlfriends entertained.
I had 5 minutes left on the clock, and I told him, I was like, dude, I know this is stupid, but I gotta go pee so bad. It's on my time, and he had like plenty of time. And I went to the bathroom. Some of my team people, like the rest of Team Serbia, came over and they were done with their games. They're like, what the hell? Why is our guy got 5 minutes left and he ran away from the table? Elka, my girlfriend, thought I had diarrhea, explosive diarrhea. And I think I closed out with like 4 seconds left, or like I ran out of time or whatever. But I was done with my turn. And after you run out of time at Worlds, you can just roll saves. So I knew I was fine for that. I didn't have anything else to react to. So.
You ran past us, and Elke tried to say something. You were like, "I just really gotta pee, and I'm on my time."
Yeah.
Okay, so let's just move on to the actual topic here. So, the aftermath of AoS Worlds 23. How was the experience? We're gonna talk about 3 bullet points. First of all, we're quickly talking army representation. We covered some of that in our last video about Worlds, where we were talking about the meta that we expected. We're going to talk about our personal experience, and both Ryan and I agreed that we were going to stick to more the social and emotional aspect of it, and not so much the competitiveness of it and the whole results thing of it. So if you want to see the results of Worlds, we're going to cover that in a later video, but you can obviously also find it online. And then we're going to talk about Ryan's personal results. As you've heard before now, he's gone 1-5, but some of your games were very close, right?
Yeah, as I mentioned in the last tournament report I did, which if people want to know more details about stuff and how I felt about the list, that's a good place to go look. I don't want to repeat too much of it here.
Yeah.
But in short, teams basically is also a communication thing and a compromise thing, because you can't duplicate many of your enhancements or grand strategies and stuff like that. And there were a couple things that I think, like the spell portal and take what's theirs, that would have made a huge difference. And it didn't end up, live and learn. And in hindsight, it's a lot easier to say. But I do know for a fact, had one thing changed, I would have gone 2-4. And there's a good chance, I think, with Spell Portal, if I'd been training with it. I wasn't even training with it in Osnabrück, but I could have easily gone at least 3-3. So, but it is what it is. And I think the big thing to take away is pairing is hard. And the competition level this year was extreme. For example, just real quick on the results, England had won for the last 3 years, and had to fight for third place this time. And
it was very close for third place.
Let's basically say this: even at the lower tables, I've never seen that competitive of play before. It was like there weren't bad players there. It was only It was hard. It was hard.
Yeah, it was impressive.
People knew what they were doing, for sure, and especially the pairing system and strategically planning for exactly what you're going to do. Like, for example, one of the team's plans I think Denmark's plan to put Sylvaneth against Gitz and keep them from winning was that Gitz really needs to get the Indomitable, the anti-Battle Shock Triumph, and they take 2 of them in their list. But the Sylvaneth figured out they needed to take like 19, 20 points, 80 points under the max points so that they could always undercut it so they couldn't get any of their triumphs. And that makes a huge difference when you make it so they can't Inspiring Presence, because Squigherd can't take command ability.
Yeah.
So that was their only way to do it. And that really can knock a hole in an army that was expecting to get it. Maybe their bid for the triumph was 70 points under, and that 80 points was strategically chosen. Yeah, you're giving up 80 points, but
the team format really changes the game completely. It turns up its head. It is such a different world, but not intended here. Such a different world when you're talking about the teams format, because you can bring armies that wouldn't necessarily perform as well as they did if you bring them in a singles event, for example. But in a teams event, you can really bring armies just because they counter a different type of army. And pairing those well and being able to plan ahead for if you get paired into the ones that you want or if you don't is probably even more important than winning your games, because that's already a reason why you're either going to win or lose a game.
Yep. I'm excited to grow. Like, I think this first experience was such a learning curve experience that I'm already thinking about ways to prepare for next year if I get to play. So it was great.
Yeah. Okay. Let's quickly cover army representation. If you haven't checked it out already, Rob from the Honest Wargamer did a very good video on Table Sports Network. Is that the one?
Sports Network,
yeah. It's a different YouTube channel if you don't know already. And he did one with Tom and Jeffrey, who are the main organizers. And Jeffrey is also the team captain from the Netherlands. And that was such a pleasant watch. I can highly recommend it because they cover all the armies, they cover the type of lists that they're playing. But to keep it short, there were a lot of Gits. 21 out of the 24 lists were Gits, I think.
Yep. And all squigs. There wasn't a single exception. It was all squigs.
Yes, it was just the same list with here and there a small hero swapped. There were 21 Zinj lists, but they did have some variety at least. There were 19 Lumineth lists, and obviously I know the Lumineth list much better, but I think there were 2 lists that did not bring any Sentinels. 1 list or maybe also 2 lists that didn't bring tech lists, and all the other lists were either tech lists with a lot of Sentinels or just a ton of Sentinels. For example, I think Team Belgium didn't bring tech lists but brought 60 Sentinels or even 70. So yeah, it was also, in that regard, it is very easy to train against those kind of lists because it's just so predictable. Which is somewhat the downfall of some of those lists, I would say. And that's something I really took away from Worlds and from watching the games live, is that certain lists are so predictable because of the internet and sharing your experiences with it now, that people just can prepare much more easily to fight those kind of lists. I mean, the tech list Sentinels list has been around since Lumineth. That list is as old as their army is.
Right.
Yeah.
And I feel like Daughters, the Marathi and the Bow Snakes had a bit of this problem too.
Yeah.
Although
Sure.
my opponent, who was a repeat appearance from my last teams tournament in Osnabrück, he's lovely, but he kicked the crap out of me again. That Bow Snakes list can do a lot of damage to
Daughters
certain
is
lists.
really tough for Lumineth. Yeah.
Yeah, with all the teleporting, and they
Yeah.
have just as much range almost as we do.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and definitely do more work, I think,
Mm-hmm.
especially with Marathi just eating everything up.
Yeah.
Soaking it up. But anyway, your point is well taken. That if a list is well known, it's much easier to counter. And this year was very much the year of books that came out in the last 7 months.
Yes.
Like Slaves, Varangard lists, super popular. Zinch, okay, not 7 months, but Zinch always strong. But there was the Guild of Summoners. Guild of Summoners list was the one that ended up being the one. That's not a list that people are used to playing.
That's
yes.
a list that you've been advocating for a long time, championing.
Yeah, exactly right. And in second edition book too, I was.
Yeah.
What else?
Beasts.
Yes, and Slanesh.
Ogres.
But some ogres. Our ogre player did great on our team. But I guess the point is also like if Corn was super strong. If you didn't have a lot of time to train against it, it's just gonna. And what you'll see if you look at the Denmark one, if you look at Denmark's lists, a lot of them are weird. That Lumineth list is kind of weird, right?
Yep.
That Sylvaneth list is weird, but it's weird in a way where you can tell they didn't do it just because they wanted to bring a weird list. Like they were like, how can we twist this just enough to catch people off guard, where they're not going to get it, you know? So that's a big tournament.
The team captain from Denmark, the champions from this year's champions, he was a Lumineth player, and he didn't bring any Sentinels. He had Teclis, he had a cow, Inia Metrica, and that was it for L3 units. So there was only the cow. And Rune, as he's called, I hope I pronounce it right. I'm just reiterating what I heard the other English-speaking crowd say. I mean, how they pronounce his name, but I imagine it's not called Rune, but it's probably Rune or something in Danish. But he did a fantastic write-up on his Twitter, and I really wanted to chat with him on Twitter, but I don't have a Twitter page, and I tried to make it, and the authentication process kept kicking me out. Like I had to add dice. Ryan, I kid you not, I did this 9 times. And 9 times it told me I did the math wrong. And I was like, sorry, Twitter, but if there's anything that I know how to do, it's add dice.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. So, Rune, if you're watching this, please, if you can get in contact, I would love to make a video with you about your Lumineth list. It was such an interesting read. I can highly recommend going to his Twitter page and reading his write down there, or his write-up. But he actually was bashing the Sentinels for a lot of things that I've been anticipating. I wouldn't call it anticipating, but like almost expecting that people would. I was, how should I say this? I was very surprised to see that people still bring that many Sentinels, because I thought to myself, first of all, their points for point damage is not that good. And that list has been figured out for such a long time now. And it's so easy to pair into if you get the options to do that. So that was I felt like that was such a risk, but then I felt like such a moron, because almost the entirety of the AoS World teams brought the list that I felt wasn't as strong anymore as it used to be. I feel a little bit vindicated, but also, I mean, it's easy to speak after the fact, right?
Well, here's the other thing is what I was just alluding to as well, is that if you're going to play a weird version of a list or a not popular opinion list, you've got to like learn it, like in the same way that everyone knows how to counter it. It's easier to play a list like that if everyone cracked the code on it.
Yeah.
That Alariel list that they had, that Sylvaneth Alariel list is insane. And like that they took Alariel and like had such a good record with it is insane. Because that's a unit that everyone's been shitting on for a long time now. And they made it work. And same thing with that You know, one of the things teams often do is they have the players who play those armies. We did this too. Go up and write, for everyone else's sake, some notes about every team's version of that army you play. I think I wasn't aware of which team I was doing at a time because I didn't have Denmark as like, oh, be careful about these guys. But I think when I read that list, it was like, there's only 2 units in this whole thing that are benefiting from Metrica. I was like, this is gonna suck.
One.
One. It was just one dude.
Just a cow.
Yeah, I was like, this is not leaning into synergy because everything in my brain says synergy. If you don't lean into synergy, you don't know what you're doing.
Yeah.
But that's not actually how the game works. But my point is, you have to actually have done the homework, which I guess I didn't, to go figure out how to do it in a way that surprises people. You know, because implicitly in that you're doing something that's off meta or off.
I mean, it's only natural, Ryan, that you don't. As good as you are, I would understand that you don't want to risk bringing a totally off meta list and then taking a chance on it not doing well because you're just not as familiar with Lumineth as you are with certain other armies, right? So
go for it.
I feel it's natural that you almost don't want to risk going up against the opinion of the world. Let's put it that way.
Well, remember when I went to Osnabrück, I went 4-1 for the first time ever, and I placed 23rd place if you alter the scores based off of win-loss, right after Nick, and that was my. I'd only lost once in my first 8 games of that list, and it came so easy. And then the points changed, and then we went to Worlds, and the competition is. So putting in perspective, I've played 26 games of that list now, including the 8 original ones.
Yeah.
I went 7-1 in my first 8 games, and then for the rest of it, in the next 18, I went 5-13. Not good. Not good. And unfortunately, by the time I had committed to that list, the deadline, because I got sick and was going to take it to a tournament, and I never got to prove that it wasn't as good as I thought it was. And so I was already getting worried going into Worlds that I'd kind of signed my death warrant a bit on the thing. Yeah. But I got sick. I came back from Serbia, unfortunately, and I was sick, and I didn't get to go to Bruges playing the Lumineth list that I was wanting to do. So
yeah.
It's not anyone's fault. It just happened.
Exactly. Yeah, and I just want to be clear. I'm not like bashing on people bring that list, and I'm not also not bashing on the list and not on you either, Ryan. It's just that it is not the only good way to play Lumineth, and a lot of Lumineth players have been feeling like it is for since the invention of Lumineth, right?
Sure.
Techless with Sentinels has been the only competitive way, except for the 3 Foxes builds for a short while, and then we were back with Sentinels. And yeah, I mean, I kind of love that Rune had such success with his version of Lumineth without the Sentinels, because I think it opens up the community's eyes to what is possible if you look at an army outside of the obvious choices.
He had Techless though, right?
He had Techless, yeah.
So it was. I'd be really curious to see how many of the Lumineth lists, especially the ones with Techless and the Cathlar in them, ended up getting to play against Gits. And by getting to, I mean like the pairing system, the way it played out. Some Gits player let it happen, or some Gits team let it happen. I never got to, and that was the main reason I thought I needed to be there. And maybe it was a deterrent, but it ended up working out. I didn't end up getting to do what I thought I was there to do. So.
I mean, that's why you brought a Cathalar, right? Just because you're good into the Gits matchup then.
And some other low bravery matchups, but yeah, it's basically that. And it's not that my team did a bad job with the pairings. It's that the other teams knew how to funnel me.
There we go.
There's this funneling process where you keep trying to wait until you get the right moment, and they keep saying no to the Lumineth player until they get to that last pairing, and at that point, I don't have any control over it anymore.
Yeah.
So. It was just, and I was to be clear, I was on my own team's pairing process. Yeah. So I was like one of the 3 people sitting down. So I signed my own death warrant in many situations unbeknowingly, because other teams knew how to do it better than me, you know? So.
Yeah. Okay, so we're kind of mixing our topics here, which is totally fine. just to really quickly get back to the army representation. So we mentioned a lot of the armies that were mostly represented there, but there was also a lot of KO, a lot of Khorne, as you mentioned, some Beasts of Chaos, some Sylvaneth. And then there was no OBR, only 2 Soulblight players, I think only 1 Stormcast player, or maybe also 2. And then 1 Cities player, I think.
I played the 1 Cities player. There were 3 Stormcast. I think there were 3 Soulblight.
3?
There were about 5.
Okay.
Yeah, there were about 5 Skaven. Yeah, but you're in the ballpark for sure.
Yeah. Just to say that there was an over-representation of a lot of armies and also a very strong under-representation of certain armies as well. And it's interesting because you just know if we're making a video about AoS Worlds 24 in a year's time, those armies are gonna change completely. The only question that I want to hear answered from you now is, Ryan, do you think come AoS Worlds 24 is the main Lumineth competitive army still going to contain Tackless and Sentinels? Yes or no?
Just in one word, yes or no?
Yes. Well. Oh.
Yes.
Okay. Yes. Okay.
You asked for one word. There it is.
Yeah.
Yes,
Are you mainly saying yes because of Teclas?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Same.
And there's not going to be a new book.
Oh yeah, that too. Yeah.
Remember, we'll be playing the same GHB for a whole year.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
We just got that news, I think, that the new GHB's cover has 2003, 2004, and no season on it.
Okay.
This was the rumor, but I think it's been visually confirmed. We know what the cover looks like.
So they've tried 6-month GHBs for 1 year now, right?
Yeah. So we're going back to 1 year GHB.
Good.
So everyone by next year World, I don't think we're going to have a lot of new battle tomes.
Mm-hmm.
It'll be obviously the books that didn't get factored in this time, but we're going to get a lot of practice with the armies that exist right now.
Yeah. Man, 1 year more of this Lumineth book is really getting me down now. Oh, good God.
You're excited about Seraphon.
Yes, Seraphon is going to be so interesting. I feel like Seraphon is going to be an auto-include for Worlds 24 because Seraphon Starborn is such a polarizing matchup. It's perfect for team tournaments where you get to choose your pairings a little bit at least. Anyway, let's move on to the experience, Ryan. Do you want to start with my looking out from outside looking in, or do you want to go with yours first?
I want to do maybe a really quick bullet point, just what I did during those 8 days, so someone can get a sense.
Yeah,
and then your day was in a specific day. So
yeah. Okay.
For me, it started the Monday before. So just so you know, the actual Worlds is Wednesday, Thursday for singles, Friday, Saturday, Sunday for teams, and that's 2 games a day for teams, and then for singles is a normal GT, 3 games, 2 games. The 2 days before singles, Monday, the Australians wanted me to set through our channel. By the way, their team coach Nico contacted me and wanted to see if I could set stuff up. So I set up for 2 of their players plus Nico to play against Nick, me, and one of my Dutch buddies here daily in Haarlem, which was great. That was nice, and that was the start of Worlds for me. The next day, I picked up Serbia from the airport. They flew crazy early. They got settled in the hotel. I dragged them all across Amsterdam because I knew they weren't going to come back into the city until, ever probably, because they were flying out first thing the day after Worlds.
Yeah.
And so I dragged them out, went to dinner. Nick came out with Elka and myself. We had a nice, lovely Mexican dinner at the same place we've been to.
Yep.
Wednesday was singles, where 4 out of 8 of our players plus our assistant ended up playing in singles. And then I went both days to the hotel. I stayed Thursday night to hang out. Nick let me stay in his hotel room because he got 1 night at the hotel just so we could actually drink and stuff. Thursday night, I ended up having dinner and drinks with Honest Wargamer crew. So Scrivo, Charlie, or Colonel Cabbage, Rob, and Dan, and got to actually sit in on their prep process for commentating and everything, and I got to throw my 2 cents in, which was lovely. I had a blast. Then stayed at the hotel with Nick and finished some code for pairings for the next day, which it was definitely an alpha version right now. And then Worlds. So Friday for me was Poland, which we knew from like a month before. Poland, then Czech Republic. Then Saturday was the day that you were there, which is the more social day because it's the first day of the weekend. So the ladies came, Nick's wife came, Mel, Elka came. You were there. My friend Matteo was there. And then we had dinner that night with Michael and us, everyone but Matteo. But it was for our team, it was Ireland was second and first was Austria. So Austria, then Ireland. And then day 6, Sunday, was North Ireland and then Greece. So which is interesting because we talked off camera to why am I blanking on his name? Siegfried about the Greek team. So I actually forgot that I knew something about the Greek team going in. They had the most mercenaries. They had 3 German mercenaries on the team, which is kind of interesting. But that was how the thing ended. Then they had the award ceremony. I stuck around. Nick and I stuck around. Nick drove me home and hung out with Owen Jackson that night a little bit and some of the other people. We finally feel like you can let go. So most people aren't going too hard on the drinking and partying stuff while we're there. I would say Saturday night was a little bit more because you got to be there and the ladies were there and we got to unwind a bit, talk about your nicknames. Every guy got a nickname. But let's go into you. So that's the oh, sorry, one last thing. The Monday after, our Ogres player in Serbia, Nemanja, he had not been there for the Tuesday arrival. He came in on Thursday. So he didn't fly out until the evening on Monday. So we hung out the whole day, gave him a much more full tour of the city and had a couple meals together, a meal and a half and some drinks. And it was lovely. It was an amazing way to end the whole 8 days worth of Worlds. But my feet, as we say in America, my dogs were barking by the end. My feet were not feeling good. They're still a little bit in pain. So wow. It's a lot of, I'm sure if I was counting steps, I probably would have gotten some serious steps in, lost a couple of lbs. So anyway, that's kind of an overview of the whole thing and kind of the social atmosphere of what it's all like. But yeah, let's talk about your part and what your perspective and how you fit into that whole picture.
Yeah, so I plan on going one day, which is what I did. You guys thought the second day would be best because the last day everyone was probably going to be a little bit more low energy, and the first day was kind of still finding your footing, I guess. So yeah, the second day I arrived right after the afternoon break or the lunch break. And you were just setting up your game, I think, if I recall correctly, against Johnny from Team Ireland. I was impressed by the venue. Wow, Tom, if you're listening to this, great venue. I can imagine it was very expensive for all the world players. It was so nice, very clean, very high class, or at least some parts of it, because I later learned it has a different reputation as well. I'm not actually sure whether we're free to or safe to say it here.
Let's just say it might be a getaway for people who are trying to
spice up their life.
Spice up their life. We've seen certain vending machines around the place that have certain kinds of adult products that are meant for late night play. Yeah.
And Michael may or may not be involved in the filling of those machines. It's still a rumor. And Michael, if you're listening to this, I'm so sorry for ruining your reputation. This is totally fake news, by the way.
Yeah, fake news. But Michael is the one that informed us of them, so he might be a part of the conspiracy.
Yeah, if you want to learn more about what we're talking about, find us in the Discord and let's talk about how that hotel can spice up your life, guys. Anyway, so I arrived at the second part of the second day. Wow, I feel like Gandalf. You were playing your Lumineth game versus Flesh Eater Chords, which was a little bit traumatizing for me because I played my first and last Flesh Eater Chords game against Nick, which was a total wipeout that he served me there. So I was very nervous. I also didn't really know how I was allowed to act, as in it was clear that I was not we stuck to English because that way Johnny could also always know that we were not talking tactics or anything. But I also didn't feel comfortable chatting with you or Johnny because I felt like it would kind of break your concentration. And every time I talked to someone else in your neighborhood, you kind of chimed in sometimes. I was like, Ryan's listening to all of this, but he should probably be watching his games as well. And you were doing both like so well, but I would have personally crashed if I was in your shoes.
You know what's funny is, so like when I play, I for me it's very important that you're creating a good atmosphere, in which I have to say playing against both Ireland and Northern Ireland was top of the line. But honestly, I only played against nice people the whole time. But like Nick was telling me, and Nick does this too, but he made some comment about how, because sometimes we'd be playing at tables like rows, the whole teams play on rows stacked behind each other, and he'd be at the table behind me, and he said sometimes he'd look behind and see that I'm just like having a good time chatting it up or whatever. To me, like I need that. If I'm sitting there stressing the whole time, if I don't have a way to unwind, I'm gonna make worse decisions, you know. And so to me, that's part of my process. If it's just sitting there theory crafting while it's happening, I'm gonna probably overthink it. I'm a nervous. Boris came over and was like, Ryan, why are you touching your beard all the time? And because I touch my beard all the time, it's a nervous energy thing. So anyway, no, you weren't distracting me at all.
You were setting up the rules with Johnny, like if we're rolling those kind of dice and if they're cocked, what are we going to do, and play with intent and all that kind of stuff. And then you were moving about a lot. And before that day, it hadn't really clicked in my mind that that's just something that you really do. And it was only when I talked to Mel, Nick's wife, and she confirmed that's something that you really do very often. That was like, oh, so that wasn't necessarily like complete nervousness. That was just a little bit of nervous energy, I suppose. But then, the beard stroke, and I go, okay. I was like, okay, I cannot disturb this guy. I don't want to be, when he's reviewing this tournament in our Strategoi videos, I don't want to hear like a very subtle, if Jonas wasn't there, I would have won this game. Like, I did not want to be responsible for that. So
not at all.
I tried to stay in the background. I watched the first half of your game, and then I got way too stressed, so I started moving around a little bit. I checked out the other tables. I saw some guys that I really wanted to talk to from the community. Matt Mello, for example, he's the guy that got me into playing Sylvaneth. So, I mean, without Matt, we would probably not have a Sylvaneth review, and we would not have a Sylvaneth channel in our Discord channel. So, Matt Mello, if you're listening to this, I really wanted to come and chat with you, and thank you for the awesome reviews that you did on AoS Coach and the Honest Wargamer a couple of years ago. But that was really motivating for me. I saw Rob doing his thing. I bought some dice. We brought some dice, some Strategoi merch that you shared with your opponents. Nick actually was so happy with how they rolled that he completely switched to Strategoi dice in the middle of the tournament. So that's nice. I just used them in a game, and I gotta say they roll completely fair. I was hoping that was going to be all 5s and 6s with my Warsong bomb, but the tournament dice from the Worlds tournament there, so the orange dice from the Netherlands, from the Amsterdam event, were actually much better than ours. So if you can still get your hands on those are hot dice. But also Strategoi dice are awesome.
But that's funny because I'm pretty sure I've heard from the Dutch people that those dice suck for them.
There you go. I mean, leave it to a Belgian person to appreciate something from the Dutch. So yeah, it was fun, that beginning of that day for me, but it was also a little bit weird because I didn't really know how to act. But then your girlfriend came over, Nick's wife came over. I kind of entertained them for a little bit. And when the game was over, I walked through the tables. I chatted to some guys. I talked to the captain from Team Switzerland, I'm pretty sure, that also played Lumineth and full Elrith lists, which I congratulated him for because that seemed very brave to me. He was very, very nice as well. So many nice people. And I gotta say, Ryan, I walked out of that room with a feeling like, wow, this is something that I would actually enjoy. I mean, I really don't have the time and energy, I don't think, to put into the necessary practice games that you need to do, because I just don't play as often as you do, and I have way less experience playing in a competitive setting than you do. But I did feel like that I would enjoy a thing like that. Not necessarily as a player per se, but just the whole atmosphere was very cool to be a part of, even if it was as an outsider looking in.
Let's get Team Flanders going. Let's get that.
I mean, yeah. I was apparently in my last video with Jeffrey from the Team Netherlands and Nick, I kind of lay into Team Belgium a little bit, which I apologize for, because I was very impressed with how they played. I watched their games live at the last day, and they played so well. Their lists were also very cool. I talked to their assistant, and he was super nice to me. Yeah, I mean, I just have a little bit of a problem with national teams not actually being a national team and more of a provincial team or a regional team, I would say. But I love how they play there, so I gotta congratulate them for that. And I don't necessarily think that Team Flanders is going to do particularly well if we would just start it right now. But then, I mean,
I don't think like this is throwing shade per se. I think it's just like a recognition that if it is better to play strategically in one language and train in one language, and they want to stay in French, there's no reason why you guys couldn't make that argument. We had all 4 plus Ireland of the countries that make up the British Isles. That's true. You want to call it that?
Yeah.
So I mean, I don't think it's too crazy to say, Anyway, I wouldn't sweat it. I don't think you were being a jerk about it or anything.
Yeah. And, I mean, my friends call me annoyingly critical, as in I critique everything. I feel like that's part of my creativity process, where I just see something and I immediately go, how would I change this? But I critique a lot of things. For example, the biggest critique that I have from AoS Worlds is, even though it was very nice, it was high class, the people were amazing, it was a good atmosphere, I do feel for a Worlds event, it wasn't very professional. And I don't want to say that it has to be very professional in all aspects, because I think that would take away from the joy a little bit. But I do wonder, like, if you were not part of our community, what would people think about the experience there? I mean, how people dressed, how people walked around there. We were talking about going barefoot, about how many people were barefoot during the games. And I'm not saying that the AoS Worlds organization has to go with a clothing or dress attire or something, rules for an attire. But I do compare it sometimes to like a sports event, and then how different that is. But I'm also very surprised that there's no backup whatsoever from Games Workshop. Like, correct me if I'm wrong, but the winning team, they just win trophies, right?
I don't fully know the answer to this, but I think that's the gist of it.
Yeah.
And I don't think GW posted. I kept trying to look to see if they were saying anything on Warhammer Community. Now, granted, it's happening right when Leviathan 10th edition Dropbox is coming out, and they might not want to split attention. We haven't had a lot of AoS content in the past 2 weeks anyway, but it does seem kind of weird when LVO seems to be a thing, or some of the other things. Obviously, Adepticon or whatever. I don't know, but who knows?
A lot of American events, Games Workshop American events, get a lot of attention, and then there is Worlds, which is mostly a European event, and there is nothing.
Yeah,
that's weird, right?
Yeah, especially considering GW is situated in, let's call it, Greater Europe.
Yes, exactly. And I mean, all my respect to the Alliance Open team, because they have to make do with whatever the community can bring in itself, like by itself, right? There is no sponsorship from GW. There is no backup from a huge business that really benefits from promotion in this event also. So that surprised me a little bit.
I want to not backpedal, but literally rewind a little bit, just to clarify. When you're talking about professionalism, it sounds like you were talking, because this is, I'm just trying to figure out exactly what your pinpoint what you're saying here. You're talking more about people, how they present themselves when they're there. You're not talking about the venue necessarily, or how.
No. Yeah, sorry. I find it difficult to pinpoint exactly what I mean in English. No, I loved the venue. I loved how what the setup was. I love the entire idea, and the entire system of Worlds is super professional. It's cool. It's tactical. It's competitive. I love it. No, I just mean like there is, for example, the referees. The Alliance Open was nice enough to pay for their stay and for one meal, I think, or maybe even 2 meals, but they still have to take 3 days or more off from work, and there's nothing as a compensation. And I understand that the Alliance Open or the organizations of any Worlds event for Age of Sigmar can compensate them for that because that's going to become very expensive. But I find it a little bit of a pity that Games Workshop doesn't really find a way to make the organization a bit more easy for the organizers now, and that they can, for example, Tom organized a beautiful event, but imagine him having backup from GW, what he could do with those resources. That would just push it over the edge, you know?
Yeah, to me, and I tried to describe this to a number of people there while I was experiencing it and afterwards as well. To me, this felt like summer camp or prom for Warhammer.
Yeah.
Like this did not, in singles too. Singles is big. It had a large international representation, largely international from players that are there for teams, but still, I don't think we have anything like it in AoS that brings 24 countries together, where everyone, like, okay, maybe you have a big event in the States, and people will fly in for it, but it's not like guaranteed that it's going to be represented and equally by 24 different countries, right?
Yeah.
So I'm with you. I think it would be cool if GW could figure out how to support this in a way that made it even more prestigious.
Yeah, and I mean, Rob is doing the commentary, which was very good. But imagine that being broadcast on Warhammer Community, for example. That would be such a huge thing for Age of Sigmar, because then it kind of gets the official stamp of approval, right? Then it's official that it's actually AoS Worlds and not just a big tournament where all the best players gather. Because competitively, it was AoS Worlds because the players there I saw plays and I saw how they played there, and it was the best Age of Sigmar I've ever seen. I mean, I completely concur with you. Like, that was the best Age of Sigmar that I've ever seen since the beginning of Age of Sigmar. That was the best players probably in the world were there, or some of the best players. But I just really missed some officialness from GW, I guess. That's what I'm saying.
I don't know if there's any drama behind that, because the ETC European Team Championship was the thing for years before this too. I don't know what the relationship is. I'm totally ignorant of this. I don't know if there was ever GW was involved. My understanding is that, you know, Honest Wargamer is named Honest Wargamer because he used to be kind of affiliated with GW and wanted to not be just a guy who was parroting the company line. He wanted to kind of be going his own path. And I know he doesn't get any funding from GW for what he does. And it might be one of these things where these two things have to be separate.
Yeah.
I don't know. But I'm proud of like the vibe that was created. As you were saying, it's a very positive vibe.
Yes, it was amazing.
Even from countries that are like arguably at each other's throats in a competitive sense. People, you could see, like, when England fell to 13th place, that they were not happy, you know, like they were reigning champs for 3 years. And then there was a point where they walked in on day 2 at 13, I think. And like that's some heavy stuff when you feel all this pressure to perform. They ended up taking 3rd place, which is probably also a little bit hard for them, all things considered. But Other than that, I feel like the atmosphere is very positive,
Yeah.
and that everyone's there to create that kind of like this is why I call it summer camp or prom, is that we're celebrating this thing that we all love doing.
Yes.
You know.
Yeah,
So.
and I mean afterwards, because I've been critiquing now, and I actually just want to reiterate that I really loved everything about that day. Like the people there, the organization was amazing. They were so nice to you and even to me, and I wasn't even there to play, but people were talking to me like I was part of the entirety of AoS Worlds. I mean, your opponents came up to you and talked to you about the last couple of games. It was such a chill atmosphere for a competitive setting, and I cannot overestimate. No, that's not the right word. Like, oh God. Like focus even more on the fact that I'm in awe of the attitude of all the players there.
Yeah, I think the teams part really kind of makes it fun.
Yeah.
If it were singles, I feel like it's every man, every person for themselves.
Yeah.
That I think the teams really kind of changes the vibe, and I think also if you get paired poorly, you don't necessarily feel like it was just rotten luck. You kind of accept that's part of the game. That's the meta game that's going on.
Yeah.
And you don't walk away from it as negatively. You do what you can to walk away with as many points for your team in the hopes that your team still pulls out a win. So even if you lose or don't do as well as you'd like, whereas at a singles tournament, it's different than playing 6 games at a singles tournament. Not that that's how many games you play. Mm-hmm. So I think it also lends itself to an air of positivity. Yeah. And hey, before I forget, Sunday, I had my first Discord buddy visit from Agaralt, who's one of our, I think, French guys. Mm-hmm. And he's in the community, in the chat, in the Discord quite often. We posted a picture. I don't know if he wanted us to put it here, so we didn't. But it was lovely. It was really cool having him. I had a couple other people come up to me and say that they knew the channel, but he was the only one that I knew who he was before he came up. From the Discord. So he's officially won the award of first person to ever that we met from the channel, and then I got to see in person. So pretty cool. So
yeah, maybe next year. I mean, to everyone in Discord, like show up. Let's hang. Let's have dinner.
Yeah.
Depending where the location is, obviously, if it's not a different hotel to spice up your life, I mean, there's options, guys.
Yeah.
Anyway, Ryan, I also included your lists in the PowerPoint here, so I'm quickly swapping over to that right now. If you've been watching any of Ryan's tournament reports, then you already know what's in this list. It's the Cathalar, Archmage Teclis. Oh, and I left a typo in the Archamage Teclis.
Archamage. Yep. Archamage.
Yeah. The Knight Zephyros, your best bud. 10 Wardens, 40 Sentinels, 5 Hurricane Wind Chargers, and then 3 Endless Spells, the Rune of Verification, Soul Snare Shackles, and the Suffocating Gravetide. And it's all snugly fit into a battle regiment. Now, if you're looking at this list and you're like, why does Ryan have Defend What's Ours and not Take What's Theirs? And why does he not have Spell Portal? And why does the Cathalar have 3 spells? Well, that's a team format, you guys. Ryan, maybe you care to explain a little bit.
I mean, I've talked about it pretty at length in the last video. But
yeah, very quickly.
Yeah, so Portal, our Tzeentch player wanted it, and this was a debate, like to the point where Honest Wargamer Rob covered this in one of his pre-Worlds videos, where he said there's drama between if you have a Lumineth player and a Tzeentch player, both of them want the Portal, and you can only take one on a team. So it's not just my team member. I don't want to make it sound like that. Every team had to make this decision, and I wasn't the only Lumineth player that gave it up.
Yeah.
So that's that. And by the way, I never ever played the list with Portal because by the time I said yes to playing the list, I knew he wanted it. So I just didn't even. I tried to learn the list without it.
Yeah.
So yeah. Why Take What's Theirs? That was a problem. Like Defend What's Theirs, Defend What's Ours instead of Take What's Theirs. That was a last minute. The team, because a lot of the points came in, the points changes. Git's points changed, and Tzeentch, and Lumineth got hit kind of hard within about a week of the deadline for the thing. Our team was scrambling. I'd just come back from Serbia. I was just thinking I should switch to Lumineth. I never got a chance to play with the list. We were all communicating in WhatsApp, and 2 of our players wanted to take what's theirs, and you can't take more than 2 grand strategies that are shared. So I thought, sure, I will do Defend What's Ours, because that's what I had done in Osnabrück, and it was okay, I guess. And it turns out that one of our players, maybe I missed it, maybe we just miscommunicated, switched to a book battle or book grand strategy right before this list deadline. And if I had known, I would have switched to Take What's Theirs, and it would have made a difference. But live and learn, communication, and me being aware, and I don't speak Serbian, so maybe they discussed it in a different chat and it was totally clear to everyone, but I missed it in ours. Yeah. So in the English language. So not pointing fingers, it's just why it ended up happening. And Lumineth doesn't have good grand strategies in its book. So like there are some rough grand strategies in there. I probably would have been better with Day Is Ours, the one with more GCs than your opponent. Yeah. Because at least I could have tried to get rid of a couple and maybe pull it out. But Defend What's Ours is just a stupid grand strategy anyway. All you got to do is toe in, and then it's out. It's bad. It's awesome. Mm-hmm. But to be fair, I wasn't the only Lumineth list that had Defend What's Ours. There were Take What's Theirs.
Yeah, I mean, if you're going to try it, then Lumineth is a good list to try it with.
Because it's a castle build.
Yeah.
And maybe you can force them out of the castle. But if your deployment zone is an L that eats up like 40% of the, you're gonna have a hard time with that. Mm-hmm. But that's that. I'm not at all mad about it, but I do feel like in retrospect, after the shocking number of people that came up to me and said, "Why do you have no portal in your list?" I was like, "Oh, I didn't realize this consensus was as one-sided as it ended up being. I thought it was more 50-50." And so it turns out portal would have helped a lot in a lot of situations. So not just spellbomb. Everyone thinks the spellbomb, but the bravery stuff, letting the cat.
Yeah, I was just thinking like not having portal with your Cathalar renders you a lot less effective against Gits, for example.
Yep, they have to get close first, and then I'm in risk.
Yeah.
So, but again, I just want to be very clear. I had a blast at Worlds. I had only good games, and even though the last one I was super tired by the end of it, I haven't had that much fun doing Warhammer in general and being part of this game in this atmosphere. Like, I had a blast. So this is not me complaining, but it is some amount of me, like, next year, I think what I should do is try to communicate better what I think I need and actually test the list a little bit more. Live and learn.
I gotta say, you really felt that you were loving everything about it that day. You really loved your teammates, and you still do, obviously. You loved playing the list, even though it wasn't the most optimal list that was out there, even though you lost a couple of games. You were in good spirits, and I respect you for that, even more than before that point, because it takes a experienced player to win, but it also takes a good player to just lose well. And it was rough, and I saw in the eyes of your teammates that it was rough for them as well, but you really took it like champs that day, and I really admire you all for that.
And to be fair to my team, which if they want to talk about it, we'll bring them on, but to be fair to my team, I'm, as much as they've been so embracing and said that I am part of the team, it's easier for me to walk away from this positive because I don't feel like it's a reflection of Serbia, right? I'm not Serb, so I'm not a Serb, and so I know that it's easier for me to kind of be. I'm not 100% the team. If they invite me back, that's lovely. If they don't, I really still appreciate the opportunity. But in any case, they need to like get a chance to feel it in a way. I can't speak for them, So. My experience was very much mine, and I had amazing time, and it was easier for me. I get salty about games, don't get me wrong, but I just felt so grateful to get to meet so many lovely people and have such a great set of challenging games that I grew as a player doing. I see this as only a learning opportunity, and it can only go up from here. So,
anyway. Yeah, it was good. It was very nice. guys, if you're wondering why the Night Zephyros has glimpsed the future, that's also a typo. So just, I mean, I listened to Ryan's term report, I copied his list, and I still copied all of his mistakes. So I'm that dumb kid in class that copies the homework from one of his friends and leaves all the errors in. So you're definitely sure that I did not did my own homework here.
I mean, I am a Zinch player, so glimpse the future. Why not?
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
He never got it off. I'll tell you right now. He did it 0 times, zero successful attempts.
Yep. Okay. So moving on to our last topic here, the results. So you went 1-5, as we mentioned before. We're not going to speak about any tournament-wide results for the teams. But your personal results, we kind of covered it, I feel. Like you had some difficult games. You mentioned your favorite game. What was the hardest game that you had to play? Was that the Slanesh game?
So just really quickly, what it was Zinch Guild of Summoners for game 1 in Poland. Game 2 was a rematch with AoS, my opponent from Czech Republic, from Osnabrück, which was lovely. And I did something totally different. I did like a techless suicide kamikaze thing to shut down Marathi and the Bow Snakes, and it worked until it didn't. But I actually was really, because I lost. I saw exactly how that game played out the last time we did, and I'm like, oops, I have to play the guy again. He's lovely. I don't want to just repeat my mistakes, and it was still fun.
Yeah.
And that's Bow Snake. I tried to do the best I could. Third game in Austria was Florian, and it was this lovely game, but he had Vanguard and high bravery, hard to shut down. I had shackles up. If he didn't dispel shackles, I probably would have had a much better chance at this game, but it just didn't go in my favor, and it was what it was. It was still a nice game, though. Fourth game was Ireland, what you saw against Feck, and was lovely. It was very close. Like, I've never had to, no offense to Nick, but I've never had to fight so hard to win against Feck. It was either I lost or I blew it out. Yeah. This game was down to the last wire. Yeah. Game 5, Northern Ireland, my favorite game, against Freddie Leggett, a Cities player. And Jonas, he said yes. Hopefully this ends up manifesting itself for our Cities review.
Okay,
and
cool.
I think he's one of the best Cities players in the world, and the only Cities player there. Lovely guy. It's a fantastic game. And I was super proud of how my playing ended up going in that one, as I've already mentioned. And then last game was Slanesh with the list that we've talked about, against a German mercenary for Team Greece named Dominic. And he was very professional, but we were both really tired. In that sense, I would say that was the hardest game, mainly because I felt like the freight train of all that stuff coming in from Slanesh was so hard. And it felt like it could have gone the other way easily. His Bellicor totally failed to shut down Techless, whereas the Bellicor from the Steve's list totally did. That was the one that kind of felt like the most like, wow, I could have actually won this, and it just didn't play out right.
Yeah.
Live and learn, I guess, is the message there. But honestly, the first 3 that didn't go so great, I did the best I could, and I did the best I could in all of them. But the first 3 was just a matter of how things played out. So, but that last one, I felt like really could have been something else, and maybe if we had a different mission, I think it could have played out differently. So, yeah, but lovely. Everyone was lovely. If you're watching this, guys, thank you for an amazing tournament. I had a blast. So.
Okay. Yeah. Let's move on to our last slide here, the closing thoughts. You can't see this slide, Ryan, because for the one time that I really wanted to see the slides, I forgot to share them. But I put in the picture here of us 3 at the end of day 2, where we are wearing our Strategoi t-shirts. I'm just noticing now that we're kind of lifting you off the ground a little bit, or you were moving your leg up, but it looks like you're being lifted off the ground. It's not that Ryan is super small. It's just that Nick and I are both quite tall people. Because
I'm not tall, that's for sure. But I'm not. I'm like American. Let's put it that way. Which puts me girl height, average lady height in the. So
yeah.
Much
hairier than the average lady, though.
Oh, yeah. Hopefully.
Yeah.
No, that pose, I was actually noticing it makes me look really weird in that photo. If it's this one, and I was just trying to do my best techless on Selenar pose.
Yeah. I can see it. I can see that. Yeah.
That's what was going on.
Yeah, I mean, you're the only one of the three of us that has his eyes actually open, because both Nick and I are like, we look like we're squinting, like something very bright is shining in our eyes or something. But yeah. By the way, guys, if you're watching this, what do you think of my shoes? My friends and my sisters both think they're god awful ugly, and I don't feel that way. I like turquoise for shoes.
I gotta pull the picture. I liked your shoes too, if I remember correctly. Let me have a look.
So please let us know in the comments below. Do you like my shoes or no?
I like those shoes. I feel like they complement those jeans very well.
There you go. And that shirt. I mean, that Strategoi shirt, man, fits on everything.
I think Hades was asking when the merch is coming out, when we're opening a merch store. Is that a thing?
Yeah, I've been promoting merch and we're not even selling them. So, I mean, it could be a thing. I'd have to figure it out how that works. I don't think there would be a lot of people interested, but if it's a niche thing for just a couple of people, I'm sure we can figure something out. It could be. I mean, I could send it personally to them. That's not a big deal. If you really want a shirt, let me know in the Discord and we'll figure something out. There you go. Anyway, any closing thoughts, Ryan, before we end the video?
In addition to just reinforcing how positive an experience this was for me, how psyched I am about whatever role I can play next year in whatever capacity that ends up being, I also am really glad that we did this as we did it tonight, because there's no way if we had to split the time, and thank you for listening to me chat so much about this. I really appreciate you letting me tell my story. But there's no way I would have gotten to do that if it weren't for just one-on-one like this. So as much as I miss Nick being here, and I 100% want Nick to be in the next videos.
Yeah, definitely.
The cool thing about this is when we do have me on and with you, I can be more in your seat right now where it's more interviewer-esque. And I don't have to talk about me at all.
Yeah, I feel like this video, if you're watching this, guys, and you're thinking like, why is this not as strategic as it usually is? First of all, it's a table talk, so it's always more casual. But I think both of us really wanted to get our enthusiasm for the event out before we went into the tactical aspect of it. But we have some videos planned, or you, Ryan, have some videos planned where we're going to deep dive into the actual aftermath, as in how the event kind of played out and all that stuff. So it is coming. So keep an eye out and subscribe to keep in touch.
Yeah.
Man, I'm in my promotional seat in this video.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, one of the ideas we mentioned talking to Michael, who's our buddy from Antwerp.
I love that.
He was one of the judges, so it'd be really nice to have him on to talk about that side of it, and also to have Tom on. It might work out that we have both of them on at the same time, since they're both in admin. That could be a thing, or just have Tom on. I could see both being a thing. Whatever makes the most sense, and they know each other. Obviously, they were from similar metas here. And then any amount of whatever the team stuff ends up playing out and making sense, we'll do whatever the teams are feeling comfortable with. And Nick, of course, wherever Nick fits in best on this, we'll do a debriefing with Nick, unquestionably.
Yeah. He was partially the reason why my day there was so awesome, because that dinner was one of the funniest dinners I've had in a long time. I mean, you people are all hilarious. Nick's wife is hilarious. Elke was so patient with all the shenanigans. Like, oh my God, she had to carry all of that.
Well, she's still making jokes about that. We were literally in The Hague yesterday, and on the way back, we played a 21 questions kind of game. One of them involved you, so.
Oh, really? Funny. Okay.
Anyway, so
all right. And with that, we've reached the end of this video. I don't know, I'm still hyped, right? I could go to Worlds 23.2 right now.
Sure, let's do it.
Yeah, I mean, we've got our team event, Team Strategoi, coming up soon, right? Like in October?
Yeah, it'll be in Bruges. It's just a one-day or team thing, but it'll be you, me, Nick, and Hank.
Yeah.
One of my buddies here who's a very fantastic player.
Yeah, and the question is, am I going to bring Sentinels? Yes or no? Or am I just going to go full Croak?
Yeah. I think at that point, there's a good chance I'll be playing Cities, if it's good.
Okay, cool. Yeah, that would be super cool. Yeah. We're expecting Cities in the summer or in fall?
I think September. Okay. That's my guess.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Cool. Anyway, guys, thank you all for sticking with us to the end of this video. If you're still watching, it's almost as if Ryan and I actually did our first actual table talk, as we're just sitting opposite each other and just reminiscing. I hope you enjoyed. Maybe if you've just been podcasting this a little bit, maybe in your car during painting. We appreciate all of you. Ryan and I really are very grateful for the support that we've been getting from the Discord members to our followers online. Please share around this video. If you were part of the Worlds event as a spectator or as a player, share this video around and let everyone in your vicinity know that we really love them. And that we were very grateful to be a part of it. Ryan, obviously, in a much more professional capacity than I was. And subscribe if you want to follow up with the other videos that we're going to make for this series. And if you want to stay in touch for a more personal talk, then you can find us in the Discords or in the comments below. Ryan, anything to add before we say our goodbyes here?
No. Thanks for watching, guys.
Bye-bye.